Hi, good evening, everyone. We have a couple of minutes. We have everyone here, but I'll still wait just for attendees to come.
There we go. Oh, what's a doggy wants? What does a doggy want?
All right, so it's top of the hour. It looks like we have everyone here plus a canine or two. So we'll get started. Welcome. This is the February 2023 meeting of ANC 1C. We'll start with introductions. We'll do it in reverse numerical order again. So Commissioner Shapiro. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Barney Shapiro. I'm the commissioner from 1C08, which is basically Beekman Place, Crescent, goes up 17th Street for a bunch of single families. I'm also the treasurer. What else do you need from me, Peter?
At this moment, not much. So we'll continue. 1-7, go ahead.
Hi, Jake Valaschini, Commissioner in 1C07, which runs from Florida up to Columbia from 18th, basically over to Ontario, but stretches to 17th along Columbia. And I learned from a couple of reporters yesterday and today that our district, or this SMD, is the I-71 capital of Adams Morgan, and I guess of the city as well. So good to know.
And 1C06.
Hi, this is Linda Laughlin, Commissioner in the Lanier Heights area and also Chair of the Public Services and Environment Committee.
1C05.
Hello, I'm Commissioner Stevens. I am representing 1C05, the part of Lanier Heights at the back of the zoo, and it borders Rock Creek Park. We have lots of wildlife. We have Fire Station 21. We have a large Ontario apartment. We have Joseph's House and many other wonderful landmarks and very interesting people. I am part of the PZT committee and PSE committees. Thank you very much.
1C04.
Thank you. My name is Jovan Y, Commissioner for 1C04, which is the north west corner of the ANC, basically northwest of the 18th and Columbia intersection. I am serving as vice chair this year and also sitting on the PZT and PSE committees.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'm Peter Wood, 1C03. It's right in the middle, 18th and 19th, Biltmore, Wyoming. 1C02 is not able to make it with us tonight. That is Commissioner Lee Dixon. And 1C01 and 09, at least for the time being, are vacant positions. So we will leave our introductions at that. Next, we'll kind of continue that line of thought, go with officers' reports. I will begin Chair's report. One item, so last month, we voted in support of a request to ABRA for a temporary extension to the Adams Morgan moratorium zone. I've not received an official email from ABRA representatives with documentation, but I have received an email from an ABRA employee affirming what I was not able to watch live last Wednesday, but they've granted the 90-day extension till May. Have to get the specifics completely written out, but I have an email at least showing that. So for the time being, and for this meeting in particular, I think that's an important detail to take into account. Besides that, as chair, I don't think I have any announcements, so we'll move on. Vice Chair, do you have anything?
Nothing for me. Thank you, Chairwood.
Secretary, we'll go with you.
Thanks. I think it is usual to report the committee meeting schedule for the month. So I'll just let folks know we are continuing our normal meeting schedule. This is our ANC meeting for the month on Wednesday, the 8th at 7 p.m. We'll have the ABC and Public Safety Committee. On the 15th, Wednesday, the 15th at 7 p.m., we will have the PCT committee meeting, the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee. And on the Wednesday, the 22nd at 7 p.m., we will have the Public Services and the Environment Committee meetings. And that should be all of our public meetings that take place this month.
Thanks. And I'll just quickly address a comment related to what I said. 90-day extension details, don't have those just because I don't have the specific response officially from ABRA. So hopefully I'll get that soon. And those from Christian from the bid. So I'll communicate those as widely as possible once those are through. Treasurer, you're up. Give us some good news or whatever news you have.
There we go. Okay. The good news is we're finally able to untangle the books to some degree. We have been funded by the district for 3 out of the 4 quarters, which is a little surprising. Their funding is matching exactly what we expected in the initial budget. The amount that we expended in the first quarter, which is October, November, and December, the overall disbursement matches what we had budgeted, not we, but the prior ANC had budgeted. However, it does not match the line items within that. What was budgeted for the first quarter, they had budgeted $4,000 for grants. We actually had an outlay of $2,500 for grants, but the overall budget came within, let's see, 8645 came within around $110 of what was budgeted for the first quarter. When we come back in March, what I will then do is I'm going to take the prior budget and lay that out by quarter based upon based upon what we have spent in the first quarter. I only saw one other grant proposal there, and the original amount budgeted for the year for grants was $10,000. We won't be able to do the $10,000, I can tell you right off the bat, because we're already short $1,500 from the first quarter. But we should talk about grants and re-budgeting. I'll give you our proposed budget for March 1st. We made some good progress today in actually getting the ability to write checks, which is a significant issue. The transition is never easy. We have to get one of the prior officers to physically go in and acknowledge it. And then we're probably going to have to come up with certain things relating to 9/11 disclosures by banks. Hopefully not, but probably yes. Fiona has been very cooperative, and Megan was finally, when I was able to talk, I didn't realize she was on the West Coast. When I was able to talk to her today via text, she was very, very cooperative. The one issue we really will have to deal with on new business or here is that there are conceivably 3 different checks that need to be written that we don't have the authority to write that are significant. One is personal services going to Sean, who is, I hope he hasn't cut us off because we haven't paid him. And then any outstanding bills for Mary and a decision as to whether we want to retain Mary, and then the accountant Ken Wada. What I'm going to propose is that I go ahead with approval by Peter or Joe, and I'll lay out the money to pay those and then get reimbursed. They all fall, assuming they all fall within the amounts that are budgeted for them. Unfortunately, I categorize things a little bit differently than prior treasurer, Megan. So I have to reconcile how I categorize things and she does. I think I can take questions. I don't know that I have answers.
That was really helpful. Thanks for laying that out. And we'll take care of the things we can, offline away from this meeting. And this is an open call. Mary Coogan was a longtime contributor. It was paid by the ANC for her services to take minutes and to manage some of the website. So if anyone's interested in filling a position, we are at some point probably going to more formally solicit, but the people that come to these meetings tend to be well aligned with the qualifications for that. So please reach out if you're interested. We can get into details at another time. Any questions from commissioners regarding the treasurer's report? Not terrible news. Definitely some work to do. Transitions are tough, but thank you so much for taking care of all that. Obviously, the finances of the ANC are important, as is the transparency, everything. From there, let's see, we can move on. Now is time for individual commissioner announcements. Let's go up this time. So I guess that would start with, well, me. I didn't mean that. I forgot. I'm used to being third. So 1CO3 news, one thing this Saturday, it's predicted to be kind of cold, but anyone that's interested in cleaning up the parks and streets, come out to Calorama Park. We'll meet there outside the center. I have a ton of bags and gloves left over from past cleanups, so I'll have those. Don't have any grabbers, so if you have those, I'd recommend bringing one for yourself. Those are helpful, but just an easy time in the morning cleaning things up. Please come in for free. It's usually nice. Beyond that, I'll put in the chat. I do have a constituent who is a pretty socially active artist. He's having a book launch for his art coming up, so I'll put that in the chat. It's just really good art, and he's having an event in I think 3 weeks. So if you're able to attend, show some support to local artists. Beyond that, it's an important time for oversight season. I've begun when I can between my normal job doing some testimony. So if anyone has issues or agencies that you would like to address things either orally or through written testimony, come to me, come to your relevant commissioner, and we can find a way to get your voice heard, because this is the time of the year to make sure that's done. I'll stop there. 1C04. The floor is yours, Commissioner Van Wy.
Yes, Commissioner Wood, quick question. I missed when you said at what time should folks gather if they're interested in helping out with the cleanup in Calorama?
Like 10 a.m. or so. I mean, it'll just be, we'll leave when people show up, but 10 a.m. is good. I have commitments at 2, so I scheduled it for then, but hopefully people can come. It'll be fun.
I will see you there. I'm excited to join you for that. Should be a lot of fun. No updates from me today. Thank you.
Perfect. And
Same thing, no announcements today.
Commissioner Laughlin.
No announcement, just since I have some attendees here, if you have any ideas or groups you'd like to hear from for the Public Services and Environment Committee, I'm all ears. If you'd like to hear more about composting or waste to recycle or rat patrol, I'm all ears and can try to find presentations to bring in. So new commissioner, so just reaching out to hear ideas from our community.
Commissioner Valskini.
Yeah, thanks. I think we also, commissioners that chair a committee normally use this time to also talk about the agenda for the.
Yeah, perfect.
Right. So I'll do that, and maybe we can go backwards afterwards. First, why don't we just go over some things that are happening in 1C07. So I've been working with some of the neighbors on a couple of new building projects that are going up, just to make sure that those buildings are respectful of their neighbors and are adequately taking their concerns into account. I've reached back out to DDOT to make sure that the speed bumps that I approved last year along Calorama from Ontario to 18th Street, that those were put back into the new approval process. So I will make sure that that happens and that we continue to get the speed bumps that we need along that street. Also, another plug for the council member's office to please work with me on making sure that we get make sure that the funding that was designated last year for Unity Park to be resurfaced actually is in the current budget, and that we get some proposals in quickly to be able to do that as soon as possible. Thank you very much. I appreciate the council member very much, and she's so attentive. So thank you for that. And then two other things. All the parents should know that the My School DC high school deadline submission is tonight at midnight. So please, if you've got high school kids and you're trying to do something different with school, please get your submissions in by tonight, by the end of the night. Elementary, middle schoolers, y'all still have another month. I'm in that camp, but high schoolers got to get it in by tonight. And then last public announcement is there's a notification that actually went out about a DC Office of the Attorney General complaint against Instacart for the way that they were Instacart workers for the way that they were treated. And apparently all like thousands of Instacart workers who are living here in DC are eligible for cash payments of $150 or more because of the lawsuit that was filed. So please take advantage of that if you have done Instacart work in DC over the last couple of years. I think that is it for my public announcements. And then the committee, we have a pretty easy agenda next week. We're going to receive a police report from Captain Hong from Police Service Area 303, which covers almost all of Adams Morgan. We're also going to have a presentation by a gentleman named Mark Namder, who is leasee of a building located at 2440 18th Street Northwest, about an application that they have submitted to ABRA for a Class C restaurant liquor license that is still in the works, but we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to at least present on the possibility at our ABC in case it comes up in the middle of the month, so we can more quickly work on a stipulated license. And then also we put on the agenda again to have a conversation about the Adams Morgan moratorium zone expiration, since I know many folks are interested in that. And this will be an opportunity to, again, discuss and take public feedback. And we will work towards doing some more expert testimony in March to come in and do like a big expert testimony presentation in March, which should get us lined up for an April ANC decision before the May expiration of the 90-day, after the 90-day extension came through. That is it. Sorry, that was long-winded from 1C07. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you for all that. Commissioner Shapiro, you have any announcements?
I don't know if the zoning committee has received notice of it, but the BZA, the Meridian House zoning case, which went to the Court of Appeals, the Court of Appeals told the BZA to go back and basically do it over again. And they came out with a decision that basically said, we did it right the first time, so we're going to stick to it. I don't know whether we received any notification whatsoever prior to their decision. It would seem to me that if they were taking, and this is obviously for 1C08, it's a very significant issue, but based upon what they're saying, they didn't see any need to give any weight to anybody other than their own decisions. So I'm going to talk to the zoning committee about that off just to see what they've gotten, if they've gotten anything.
All right, thank you so much. The Commissioner Dixon is the chair of PZT, so he's not here to make any announcements on that committee. Commissioner Laughlin, you mentioned some things about public services and the environment. Any other details to add?
At this point, would we summarize what we met about at our committee meeting, or just any agenda items?
My omission, I should have mentioned it before, but yeah, just if there's anything you'd like to announce regarding PSE.
At this point, reviewing the grant application system that we have, and I need to check in with our treasurer about any outstanding grants we may have and what money we may have. And typically we would announce the open period, although the open period is year round, but just to sort of announce to community members for grants starting in February. I will be updating the Google Docs sheet because right now that goes to a prior commissioner and I need to switch that over. But haven't quite put together the full agenda for the end of the month for February, but that will be coming soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that's commissioner announcements. Now's the time anyone in the public wishes to make any comments, please raise your hand. Please try to limit yourself to around 2 minutes. Some people represent kind of DC constituent agency things, so we'll be a bit flexible, but please be mindful of everyone's time. All right. So I think first was Lauren Lipsey from Councilmember Nadeau's office. Welcome, Lauren. Ready whenever you are.
All right, I think, there we go. Can y'all see me?
Yeah.
And hear me? Hi, great to join. I just wanted to give some updates. As always, the most up-to-date information can be found via the council members' newsletter and social media channels. So I encourage everybody to go to the website, and I have a couple of links that I'm going to reference, and I will drop that in the chat for everyone after I'm done here. Want to remind everybody that it is performance oversight season, and this is an opportunity for community members to make their voices heard. Councilmember Nadeau is the chair of the Public Works and Operations Committee, so that includes DPW, which I know is a hot topic. So that is just one of many agencies. She had her first hearing today. I will drop the link in the chat where people can go to learn more about what the dates are for those particular performance oversight hearings, and encourage anyone who has issues they want to raise that are chronic or they think are of great importance to the community to certainly sign up to provide their comments in those hearings. So I will put that on there. Legislative update, this is relevant to the area. Yesterday, Chairman Middleton and Councilmember Nadeau reintroduced the bill to decriminalize street vending. So that is also relevant and pertinent, and great to see that moving forward again. So I will share a link to that for more information in case anyone is interested. Want to remind everybody of the importance of using 311. That is a very good system to at least track your efforts to address issues that you find. If you encounter concerns, that's when our office can certainly step in to support you. Our constituent services team, including me, are dedicated to helping agencies kind of move some of these issues along that maybe are not being addressed in a timely manner. So certainly don't hesitate to reach out, and I will drop my information in the chat as well. You did bring up the question of funding of Unity Park. That funding is still there. And the news this week from DGS is that a design build contract has not yet been awarded, but we are on top of that. And I think a handful of you might know David Menny from our office. He is the one kind of leading that effort. So as those updates come, and I do know that that's kind of top of mind for this ANC, and I will always have updates either monthly or more timely as we receive that information. I'll send that on to you all. And then this was not announced, and maybe somebody else is on the call to announce it, but I think this is something that's very important to get out to our constituents. The March 1st is going to be the end of the SNAP emergency allotments that were in effect during COVID. So I think it's really important to just be aware that we might have increased indication of need or constituents in need of additional resources. So DHS is going to make those resources available on their website in the coming days because they recognize that this might have a great and probably will have a great impact on some of our community members. So want to be aware of that. And yes, I will, Kristen, I just saw your comment. I'll put all of these links in the chat for people to see. That is all I have. Again, just remind people to go to and sign up for the newsletter to find out. We're going to try to do that bi-weekly. So that will be a very current source of information about kind of state of legislation and other relevant community information from various DC agencies. And then also sign up for public oversight hearings to make comments if you have any feedback or something that you want to make known about a particular agency. And I will share that information as well, not only for the agencies that the council member oversees, but also just the general schedule for the council as a whole. Any questions?
I have a couple. One will be
Sure.
from the constituents here, and if other commissioners have any, feel free to chime in after. You mentioned SNAP. I was pretty alarmed to see that news the other day. I guess I was slightly less alarmed to the degree that it's the higher income bracket of the low income bracket that's being reduced, I think. So it's not people that'll have the bottom income, I think. Regardless, it's still shocking. And who should we direct constituents to if they come to us asking what they should do?
DHS, and I can make sure that at least ANCs, you get a relevant contact if you don't already have one. We can work together on this. It is the emergency allotment, so it will be a reduction in support for a lot of constituents and a lot of our community members, but it is not. It is just returning to pre-pandemic levels. If residents have questions about that, they can log on to their portal on the DHS website for further information and kind of find out what those levels of support will be. And we can, I don't have exact information about to what you're saying, where it's maybe based on income level. So you might, yeah, you have more information than I do on that, but I think DHS is going to be our source of the most pertinent and accurate information as it pertains to DC residents.
Great, thank you. And the second, I'm not sure if you can speak to it, but I think Rachel in the Q&A was asking about the Columbia Road Bus Priority Project and how it affects parking. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not on the committee that deals with that, but to the best of my knowledge, the final specifications of the project have not been determined. Is that an accurate way to portray it?
I think that's a really good question. I have as much information as you do in terms of the current status because it's what's public on their website. I did inquire about, well, at what point will there be, or making sure that there will be space for public input, because I know that is something that has come up when I've met with various commissioners. My understanding is that there will be another opportunity for that, but there we go. There's Kristen. She says they've not finished the next round of design. So my understanding is that time frame with which to give feedback is not closed. So if people are interested in that particularly, I will drop that website for that project in the chat as well. Because I think, again, DDOT has been very good about being very transparent and upfront about their process. And so just being patient with them as they kind of go through that.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions for Lauren while we have her here? That was really helpful. Thanks so much. Well, have a great evening.
Thank you, you too.
Next is Kristen Barton from the Adams Morgan Partnership and Business Improvement District. Welcome, Kristen.
All right, here we go. It always takes a minute to get elevated as a panelist. Thank you all. I have a couple of updates, mostly around our events. And Peter, I don't know if you saw, I put Johnny Williams' phone number in the chat for extra supplies for Saturday if you need them. They always have extra stuff. So sounds like you have trash bags and some things, but I think they might have some extra trash grabbers and other things like that. So yeah, so feel free to call Johnny. He'll be happy to help out. He might be off on Saturday, and Aaron might be working for him, but coordinate with Johnny first because Aaron is the part-time supervisor. And Johnny sort of knows better where things are. So we a couple things. Our annual meeting is coming up on Tuesday, March 14th. And that's going to be a breakfast at Roofers Union. And all of the ANC commissioners are welcome to attend. The breakfast will be available at about 8:45 that morning, and the meeting should start about 9:30. Salah Sapari, as his role at the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture, is going to be our keynote speaker. And there'll be a video annual report that we have been doing the last few years, and other reports. So it should be a nice gathering. Come early for breakfast and socializing, and then we'll start the business meeting about 9:30. And board members and members of the bid will be voting on board members, and those elections will conclude during that meeting. And we're going to be replacing the posters that we have in the bus shelters. Some of you might be familiar with those. They've been in the shelters for a few years now, probably going on 3 or 4 years. So some of them have really begun to kind of fall apart. And so we're going to be replacing those with a new concept this spring. So stay tuned for those. We are encouraging businesses to decorate for Valentine's Day. And then we're going to have a contest with first, second, and third prize. And those are cash prizes. First prize is $500. Second prize is $300, and third prize is, I think, $100. It's 200. Yeah, 500, 300, 200. And thank you, Linda, for agreeing to be a judge for that contest. We have 8 or 9 businesses signed up so far, and there should be a few more coming in. So they have to decorate by February 10th. The judging is going to be that same day, and then the winners will be announced on Valentine's Day. And the other thing we're doing on Valentine's Day is what we're calling a random act of kindness. And about 20 businesses will have some bags of chocolates, thanks to us. And the first 50 people at each business, they will pass out a free bag of candy. And it's a random act of kindness, and you're encouraged to, pay it forward. So, and yeah, that'll be at their POS. And let's see, we're going to be bringing back Drag Queen Story Time starting in April. We're working with DC Public Library again on that, and that will likely be in Unity Park. We're not sure exactly the schedule yet, but starting in April. Also in February and March, we're going to be doing our date nights competition for people can win date night packages all around the neighborhood. It's a lot of fun. And some of the packages are really amazing. So we get some of that stuff donated, and we buy some of it as well. And then we're going to be bringing back the Admo Art Walk, which we brought. The first year was the spring of the pandemic. So this will be the 4th year, I guess, 3rd or 4th year. And we partner with DC Art Center on that. So look for more information coming out soon. We have a new intern who's kind of in charge of that. So you may see some stuff from Kate. And then I don't know if I mentioned this last month or not, but we are going to be doing a spring Porch Fest, our music festival. The October one is super popular. And so we're going to be doing another one on May 20th. So put that on your calendars. There'll be lots more coming out about that. We're beginning the planning for that now. So that's Saturday, May 20th. And there'll be more summer, spring stuff happening. But that's, kind of what's coming up in the next couple of months. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Busy as always. Thanks so much for sharing all that. Any
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
Any questions from commissioners for Kristen? Thanks for your time. We'll see you.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Next, Carol Miller. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Hi there. I was just wanting to comment that I wanted to say that I'm really happy to see that the liquor moratorium was extended. So thank you. And I'd like to see that extended again. And the main reason is because I want to attract more restaurants, less pubs that are not dependent on food sales. And I'm really concerned about our strip along Columbia Road where we've seen so many favorite restaurants close recently. So anything we can do to encourage food at places where we drink is all great as far as I'm concerned. And that's all. Thank you all for your work.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll note that we have it on our agenda for later. So when it comes into discussion, I'll interject with that. Trevor Culpepper from PepCo, thanks for joining us. Glad to hear from you. Well, we're about to be glad to hear from you.
Hello, can you guys see me and hear me?
We can hear you, and now we can see you. Perfect.
Oh, okay, thank you so very much. And good evening to ANC members as well as constituents and neighbors. My name is Trevor Culpepper, and just wanted to share a bit of information regarding our upcoming meeting on February 8th, which is next week. We plan on sharing information about current work that's taking place along V Street, as well as sharing information about upcoming work that will be near the Champlain substation. You might have remembered me coming to the ANC in December to share updates about the current work that's taking place, and we wanted to do our due diligence to share this information with the broader community just to ensure that everybody is aware of our schedule with the work taking place on V Street, and to inform you about the transmission work that will take place on Ontario Road as well as Florida Avenue. And we have shared your feedback from that meeting with our contractors who will soon start the transmission construction along Florida Avenue and Ontario Road, but wanted to make sure that you are aware of that meeting that will take place on February 8th. Many individuals in the neighborhood who are impacted by both sets of projects should have received a letter. If not, I will ensure that you do receive that. If you can, I'll put my information in the chat so that you can email me directly, and I will also put the meeting link in the chat as well. And wanted to thank you all very much for your patience, and we're looking forward to sharing what's taking place in to come. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely helpful information. It doesn't look like we have any other hands. Commissioner Pasquini does, though. Go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, Traverse. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for doing this. Would you mind just reminding of the time for that meeting on February 8th so folks know?
Oh, yes, that meeting will be at 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and it will be virtual, and folks do have the option of dialing in as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope to attend and send around notes for folks in the neighborhood. Also, I just want to make one more plug. The fact that your folks are going to be on site is a great opportunity to fix the sidewalks around that substation, which are a complete and total disaster. So it'd be really awesome if while you're there and your people are there, if they could please take the opportunity to fix those up so they aren't a tripping hazard for the whole neighborhood.
Thank you very much for that feedback.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions from commissioners for Traverse? Looks like all right. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely approve the sidewalk message. So yeah, second that.
Okay,
And
yeah, no problem.
Thanks for being here. Have a good evening.
No, thank you.
It looks like we have one more person with their hand up, our Ward 1 Moker, Jared Allen. Hey, Gerard, how are you doing?
Good evening, everyone. Just trying to get set up here. All right. How's everyone doing? Just got one quick message for you guys. As we all know, it is budget season. So they're getting ramped up and revved up for that. I do have some information going to drop in the chat, but I did want to share. Some of you have already been, this is a message from the mayor. Some of you have already begun sharing with her the budget priorities as we prepare for the fiscal year 24 budget. Thank you for doing so. As you know, any recommendations you send to us for consideration are entitled to great weight. And my team and I are committed to giving them the response and respect they deserve. I would like to invite you to share your budget priorities directly with me and my administration at one of our upcoming budget engagement forums. First forum will be held Thursday, February 9th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Jackson Reed High School, located at 3950 Chesapeake Street Northwest. The second forum will be held Saturday, February the 11th at 11 a.m. That's going to be at Eastern High School, 1700 East Capitol Street, Northeast. And just want to know, the mayor wants all the commissioners and DC residents and organizations to come out and share their values, priorities, and ideas as the Bowles administration, with the Bowles administration, as they develop the 24 FY fiscal year budget. So I did want to drop that information off to you guys. I'll drop some links off before I get out of here, but that's all I have for right now.
Thank you so much. And that reminds me, and for attendees as well, talking about budget after oversight of the agencies. 2 years ago, my first year, ANC 1C had a resolution about our budget recommendations for the year. Didn't do it last year, but hopefully we'll give it a shot this year, or at least that's my intention. So we'll talk about that in the future, off of the meetings and then in it. But thank you for the reminder. Definitely.
Okay.
Any questions? All right. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good evening.
Me too.
It looks like that's it for community comments. So we'll go to our regular business we'll actually first do the consent agenda. So consent agenda, not up for discussion, but as a reminder, if any commissioner would like an item removed from the consent agenda to be discussed and voted upon individually, you're free to do so. There's nothing really controversial in there. So I will, short of that, move to support pass the consent agenda. It's just 2 items this month, which is municipal. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to go ahead. Sorry, I short circuited that.
No, that works. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you to Commissioner Shapiro for getting the quarterly financial report done. I know it's been a tough transition, but we're getting there.
I also wanted to, just quickly add in thanks to you, Chairman, for putting together the minutes from last month. It's much appreciated.
My pleasure. So that brings us to our regular agenda. So first, I'll do it kind of out of order, just because we have possibly some guests here, just in case we have questions and they're bounced between meetings. So I'll start with a just simple one, which is first, general matters, not controversial by any stretch of the imagination, but we do need to amend our bylaws just to accurately reflect the new boundaries of the ANC. So the links in there, it literally is just copied and pasted from the official DC code, which was passed to be implemented or take effect January 2nd, 2023. It basically, instead of going to U Street, the southeast corner of the neighborhood or of the ANC goes to Florida. So it's just to account for that. Any questions, comments about this? It's, like I said, no substantive changes. The rest of the bylaws in terms of the functions of the commission and committees is the same. So that should be easy. I'll move for us to support changing our bylaws. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously, 6-0. Next item, I'll jump just because I do think we might have guests here from the PZT committee. They've presented a couple times, but actually, Commissioner Fauschini, would you feel comfortable presenting? You, I think, are a little more familiar with this than I am.
Yeah, I'm happy to. In our PCT committee meeting last month, we voted to unanimously voted to recommend supporting the request for special exceptions to the building code for a building development located at 1845 to 75 Connecticut. The BZ application number is 20879. For zoning, they requested 3 special exceptions from the BZA. Penthouse setbacks less than otherwise required. Court width and height for several courts less than otherwise required. Side yards, which aren't changing but are less than otherwise required for new construction. And they're also requesting public space permits from DDOT for curb cuts, some realignment to existing curb cuts, minor projections of the building into public space, and we're talking inches here, not feet, and almost entirely because of the current existing structure being changed or being kept the same and then being re-outfitted with different siding to meet residential as opposed to commercial needs. And then minor projections of the building. Oh, sorry, I just said that. Underground vaults, which are already existing, and streetscape changes around the property. We received a full presentation on this and really, spoke in depth with the developers about why they needed all of these. Again, as I said, the vote was unanimous in committee. I highly recommend that we all vote to approve these special exceptions. This is going to be a really, I think, great development for the neighborhood that'll offer a significant amount of inclusionary zoning that's a part of the development as well. Lots of environmental concerns taken into consideration, and the design itself is very thoughtfully aligned with the neighborhood, I think. With that, I'm happy to open it up for any questions. And if we need to, also, if any of the other commissioners who sit on the PCT committee would like to speak, they're more than welcome. And the reason why I'm presenting is because Lee, who is the chair of the committee, is not able to be here tonight.
Thank you so much. That was a very succinct summary of everything. Any questions, comments from anyone on the commission? All right, well, I'll move to support this. Can I get a second for discussion? It looks like there's not much.
Second.
All right, any community members, anyone in attendance have any questions, comments, concerns with this? Came through unanimously through committee, so that's a strong indication. And also, we've seen this presentation a couple times, I think, collectively and in committee. So I have no questions. If no one else has any, we'll vote. All of those in favor of supporting the zoning exceptions for the Universal Building, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. Thanks again, Commissioner Falaskini. Looking forward to getting quite a bit of diversity, well, to some degree, of housing options built in the neighborhood. So looking forward to that project.
I know that that's going to be diversity.
I put asterisks next to the, caught myself. Next item, we'll jump back up to the regularly scheduled order from the Alcoholic Beverage Control and Public Safety Committee. Don't plan on having a vote on this. We did, like as announced at the beginning of the meeting, have a 90-day extension to the moratorium zone granted until I believe it'd be May 6th, but I don't know the exact date for sure, just because I haven't gotten official documentation. But just for discussion, does anyone have any questions, comments, community members want to raise any issues that haven't been raised before? Or if you want to repeat, that's fine as well, just regarding the pending expiration now in May of the Adams Morgan moratorium zone. We had one comment earlier today that was an important, not necessarily directly relevant, but definitely part of the conversation, which is business turnover. In my SMB, I know that there's been quite a bit, I believe in 1CO7 as well. So it's something that to take into consideration. I think that today would be 1, 2, 3, the 4th meeting. Next week would be the 5th meeting. Next March 1st would be the 6th meeting that we have this on an agenda. So I think we're at the point where it's hard to argue that there hasn't been pretty good transparency in public input, but I'm definitely happy to continue to do that. It's a fruitful set of discussions. Commissioner Fauskini, go ahead, please.
To the point that was raised earlier, I would just say that the vast majority of the taverns in the neighborhood do still actually sell food, and most of us would actually think of them as restaurants. There are only a few taverns in the neighborhood that actually don't have food options that we wouldn't think of as also semi-restaurants. So just because the license structure is as it is doesn't mean that the business doesn't also provide food for the neighborhood as well. So I would note that to the person to Carol, who I believe spoke earlier, not to discount her perspective, but just to add some clarity.
Yeah, that is helpful because I've gotten kind of similar comments before, which is to reiterate your point. Having a tavern license does not exclude the possibility of selling food. It just means that you're not going to get fined for not hitting a certain quota of your revenue coming from food sales. Looks like we have a couple of phone callers. They're both 202 numbers. We'll start with 70574. So I guess it's public anyway, so I can just say it. Go ahead. Welcome.
Hi, it's Dennis James of Calorama Citizens Association calling in.
Good to hear you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that some important points need to be raised as the ANC draft resolution still sits on your website for people to look at. And that is, it does not include something that is in the existing rules, which is that no restaurants may seek to switch license class to tavern. So this resolution that I referred to also says that 25 taverns would be the number that the ANC would, I don't want to put words in the ANC's mouth, but let's say recommend, if that resolution were to be approved by the commission. Now, when that number was put in to the resolution, I believe that happened on December 14th at the ABC and Public Safety Committee meeting. I suggested that a number like X would be better than saying some definite number. But, you know, the commission did what it did, the committee of the commission, and the number 25 is there, but it's for a point of discussion. We have 16 existing taverns, and the ABC board has repeatedly approved the same language that no further taverns shall be issued until the number is below 10. So there have to be 9 taverns for one more to be issued. Now, the number has never changed since all those taverns were first grandfathered in back in around 2006. It happened over a couple of year period because they applied once it was seen that there was a hole in the moratorium language from 2004. So the community never wanted to have a large number of taverns. There were 3 at the beginning of this process back in 2004. But the council member at the time, Jim Graham, fiddled with the language and made an opening that a bunch of restaurants jumped through because they didn't want to be burdened with having to prove that they were restaurants by hitting the 45% food requirement. So when a restaurant comes to the neighborhood, that's what you expect from it, that it's a food service place and that you can enter it with no strange bars to entry like a cover charge or somebody wanding you at the door. But anyway, the ABC board has all these years viewed there as being way too many taverns in Adams Morgan. So I would encourage the ANC to suggest a lower number than has been suggested. And I'll leave that right there. But, you know, I note that the ANC proposed draft resolution is very similar to one approved by the Adams Morgan bid, which its board is made up mostly of ABC licensees or their landlords. So the board of the bid wants there to be more taverns to enrich the landlords of the bid, because you can get a higher rate of return on your rent. You know, you can get a higher rent for a tavern license because it's perceived as being more valuable because there's less regulation involved, meaning you don't have to show the 45% food requirement. So, you know, let's represent the residents of the neighborhood, not a few business owners, a few building owners who want to fill their spaces with something that the ABC board has repeatedly said we have too many of. So, you know, the biggest thing that not the biggest thing, I mean, I don't know if the ANC is going to be movable on the number of taverns it suggests, but I would hope that it would. But beyond that, if let's just say the ANC is saying, oh, let's use this as an economic development tool because we have numerous empty storefronts. Well, you won't get new taverns to come because unless you say there shall be no existing restaurants allowed to switch to tavern, because they're already there and they can do it quicker than somebody who may be thinking about opening a tavern in Adams Morgan. You know, so I think it's just a very clear point that needs to be continued from the existing regulations that has been in there continuously since 2009. And it's a direct descendant of the amendment that resulted in, it was a temporary rulemaking. It was a rulemaking by the ABC board that wound up having the 10 taverns as the cap, even though more were eventually approved because there were protests by the ANC, the KCA, and others, and we settled most of the cases. I believe there was one that we went to a protest hearing on. It's a long time ago. Anyway, that's the main point I wanted to make. You know, there has to be meaning in the different parts of the resolution, and it has to call for the right things. It can't just...
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
thank you,
we're running a little long on this.
You do have some other hands up, and you've made these points at multiple meetings before. So if you could just make your last sentence, that'd be appreciated. Or actually, I think that's done. Yeah, thank you for your comments. I will address two issues. Just the implication that the Adams Morgan bid was involved in the writing of the language of this resolution. I wrote the original draft myself with zero bid input, and then also our committee edited it. So it's been entirely ANC commissioners in previous commission that were responsible for that. So there's been no collaboration as far as that goes. It looks like we have a couple other people here. The next is also phone number 202, number ending in 0296. Go ahead, please. And I'll be gracious, but please don't take an exorbitant amount of time to speak, but we're glad to hear from you. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to comment. First of all, I live on the second floor. My bedroom overlooks the alleyway. Last week, there was a group of obviously drunk men who entered the alleyway at 18th Street and started turning over trash cans all up the block until they got to Columbia Road, presumably to their own cars. And it was very noisy. They were laughing, joking. They thought they were having a great time. They didn't care about the residents and the damage they were doing that would have to be cleaned up. And the people they were disturbing from their sleep. This was early in the morning after they left the bars, obviously. And I just want to let everyone know this is exactly the kind of thing that happened consistently before we had the moratorium. This happened every weekend, and now it was so timely for me to have it happen again. So I want you all to know, if you weren't in Adams Morgan and weren't exposed, or if you are lucky enough to live on a higher level or on the front of a building, you may not be disturbed by these people who get out of bars and disturb people. So I just want to alert you to the fact that there was a reason for the moratorium, and that reason continues. It has to do with human behavior when people get drunk. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I hope you're.
But wait, I got a question. I mean,
Go ahead.
if we had one tavern license, you could be disturbed. That's an enforcement issue. That's not an issue with the number of. You could have one tavern license, and you could have a bunch of drunk Georgetown students leave that whatever tavern it is, and it could just be one instead of 17 or 26. So the number doesn't. You're always going to have bad actors. That's an enforcement issue.
No, thank you. I was just going to say I live on this ground level, so I'm well aware of when people are allowed. I definitely can empathize there. And also, yeah, this is the enforcement aspect is something that we have addressed. And also, I think in previous iterations of this conversation, enforcement and who should be doing that and how has been a big part of it, because those things are, having more liquor licenses doesn't necessarily mean a linear relationship between more noise that's going to happen. It could, but not necessarily. Commissioner Falskini, go ahead.
And this is, I'm sorry that happened to you. I live on street level on Champlain and Calorama. I have a patio there. It becomes a receptacle for many pieces of trash and other things on Friday and Saturday night. And that is part of the price that I pay to live in a neighborhood where I have access to a lot of really awesome things. And I recognize that. Maybe for folks that have lived in the neighborhood for a really, really long time, before any of these things existed here, that's a change. But most folks chose to live in Adams Morgan. Most folks that live here now chose to live in Adams Morgan because of access to a lot of things like like restaurants and bars and stuff as well. And so, part of that is the trade-off of choosing to live in the city and live in a vibrant, diverse community. Yes, those are bad actors. They chose to do a really stupid thing. I hope that they were caught, and and also thank you to the bid for having their people that come up afterwards to clean up around the neighborhood. They're regularly cleaning up on Saturday and Sunday morning in front of my place, and I really appreciate it. And that's also part of what we have here is now we have a bid in place, which didn't exist when the moratorium first came into existence. And the bid is able to, at least in some ways, try to minimize some of the bad behavior that comes with having these kinds of businesses in the neighborhood by, in the past, having more enforcement in the evening and in the mornings after busy nights, like also having folks come out to clean. So I hear you, and it's unfortunate that happened. And also we live in a diverse and busy urban neighborhood.
Thank you so much. And kind of on those points, at least in the last month, at least my experience is I think I've had more people come to me saying they'd actually like to see the expiration just happen without any number being specified for it. So that's not representative of the entire neighborhood because we don't serve the entire neighborhood, but at least is a trend that I'm seeing in emails, phone calls, conversations. Any other questions, comments, or excuse me, any other comments there from commissioners? All right, looks like we have another person from the community, Felicia. The floor is yours whenever you're ready. Glad to have you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, do it off my phone. Yeah, my name is Felicia Meyer. I live over on Vernon Street and have actually lived there since the 1980s, raised 5 kids there. I guess my concern, I'm kind of new to the discussion on this, but my concern is I understand that there's a lot of vacant commercial space that we would like to see filled, but I feel like increasing the number of taverns, which though a lot of them do serve food, are not obligated to serve food. In my personal opinion, I feel like we're sinking and waiting for the lowest common denominator. You're right to the gentleman who said one tavern could create bad actors, but increasing the number, it was the case. I think all of us that were there before the pandemic, it was pretty bad. And it is an enforcement issue. I agree. But I think adding more taverns and possibility for more drinking spilling out onto the street is not going to improve our community. And that is the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. And this is something that we've had this continuous conversation on. It's definitely important. One thing I have that is like kind of semantics, but at least technically, according to how the law would or the policy would be written, having an increased cap or no cap on tavern licenses doesn't per se mean that there would be more taverns. Of course, that's the logical assumption, but no one's forcing taverns to fill vacant spots. It just means that that would be a possibility, as well as the possibility of existing institutions to have their license categorization changed. Important questions, lots of good comments tonight. Any other commissioners or community members in attendance have anything they'd like to say to address this particular issue?
Yeah, Commissioner Wood, I did send out a survey to constituents in 1C06. I don't have a ton of responses yet. I need to do more outreach, but it was about 50-50 of people who had heard of the moratorium. So I think some education on that needs to be done so people understand what a moratorium is. They're not, I think there are 4 currently in the district. They're not prevalent across DC. But after explaining it through the survey, I only had one person who supported keeping the moratorium. Most of the responses wanted to expire it, and there was a mix between complete, like no rules, and then those who wanted not to have nightclubs. That seemed to be the biggest thing. It's no desire for nightclubs, but open to taverns. And I would say we often reward the bad actors by putting these caps, because there are those who will open something and it'll close and they'll reopen, and they may not be the best businesses for our community. And so it's good to open up the competition. And then so we do get more quality establishments into our community that will help do enforcement and make sure that their patrons are respecting our neighborhood.
Thank you. I will pick on semantics just a tiny bit again. Not having a cap on tavern licenses is not the equivalent of no rules. It just means that slightly less rules are in place. Just felt that was important. It looks like Mr. James wants to speak again. Do ask that you limit your comments, just because the last time I think was an ample amount of time. I will interrupt if you're not brief, but welcome to have you again, Mr. James.
Thank you, Chair Wood. I didn't say that there was a direct correlation between the BIDS resolution and the ANC's. I didn't cast any aspersions on anybody who wrote the ANC's resolution. I just noted that there was similarity between the two. So I'd like to leave that, and I think Commissioner Shapiro was trying to ask me a question, or perhaps tell me to stop speaking. I'm not sure which, but I will note that Kristen Barden spoke for a fairly long amount of time, as well. And I know it was more than 2 minutes, but I didn't time it. So let's just, if we're going to talk about this issue, the Kalorama Citizens is a long-standing, over 100-year-old organization that's been in Adams Morgan and deserves the ability to speak on important issues, especially ones which we have expertise on. And that is what this is. We have been involved in writing the moratorium petitions every year except for the year. Well, actually, I wrote most of them in every year except for 2000. And I'm sure that whoever was working on it for Kalorama Citizens in that year was also involved in writing it. So I'm just trying to, be open. But I think that the ANC really needs to recognize that this is something that's long-standing in this neighborhood, and it was reactive to a problem that was here. And it's not just trash cans being knocked over, and one establishment could cause that kind of a problem, or other problems like knifing, shootings, fights, with broken bottles and that sort of thing. All of which there has been evidence from the MPD and the ABC board over the years associated with taverns. But let's just take Mr. Shapiro's thought, Commissioner Shapiro's thought, oh, that could have been caused by one. Yeah, but if we have 25, then it's 25 times more likely that something like that's going to happen. Now, let's be realistic. And there's only so much.
If you have another point that is not a repetition before, could you bring that, or we will move on to the next item?
Fine, I'm happy to stop, but I don't like I did not. Please recognize through your words that I did not say that the ANC copied its language from the bid. I didn't say that.
Oh, happily.
Okay.
My language was that there's an implication. Just want to make sure it's clear. No accusations whatsoever. Appreciate your comments. I will note there was a mention that the Colorado Citizens Association has been around a long time and wants to be heard. I haven't done the tally, but I would be willing to guess that cumulatively on the several meetings we've had, at least an hour of actual speaking time has been devoted specifically to the Colorado Citizen Association, which is disproportionately more than any other citizen group or resident in the neighborhood. So at least my perspective is that I'm happy to hear from KCA and that there's been quite a bit of feedback, both through emails, both through meetings, both through conversations in person. Glad to have had that. Appreciate the contributions. Any last thoughts from anyone on the commission on this issue? All right, I will move to postpone this another month to the March meeting for discussion there. Can I get a second?
Second.
Got multiple. All right. So all in favor of 1 month postponement again, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. We'll discuss this again in a month and also in a week. So plenty of opportunities if you still have thoughts that somehow have not been addressed. So we have one more item on tonight's agenda. It came from the Public Services and Environment Committee. Commissioner Laughlin, do you want to introduce this item, please?
Yeah, so it was brought to the attention of the committee about the condition of the billboards that are in an ACE 1C our commission. So I think I can share, right? I can do this properly.
Share your screen, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's the green.
Right, but now where did I put my, this is fancy. Sorry. I'm just trying to apologize because I'm a Teams user at work and I have to relearn everything for the meetings here. But I had posted on the agenda and I received a couple emails. Clearly I must have not made it open, so I apologize. So why can't I? There we go. All right, so can you see the screen? 3 billboards showing? Yeah. Okay. So there are currently 3 billboards throughout the community. One's at Calorama Park, second one's at 17th and Calorama, and one at Adams Mill in Lanier Place or Calvert in front of the Phils. For the most part, the structures are pretty sturdy. Like whoever initially put them in for the commission, they're pretty sturdy. Mostly it's just damage to the corkboard and then the sliding doors. Particularly the one at Adams Mill that's off track. So and I think it's glass. The other 2 are plastic doors. And also the bottom of this one is sort of falling out. And I think one of the commissioners in the meeting mentioned, I think, Joe, you mentioned it may have fallen out on you when you tried to use it. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was putting something in for a little commissioner meet and greet or candidate meet and greet that we had. Yeah. And the door just fully fell out. I think it was drizzling at the time. It was not an ideal situation. But. Right.
And we don't want our community members to, get cut or hurt from one of these. So one thought, so we want to bring this to the full commission to discuss. I think, I don't know, I have not been able to price out what it would take to repair these. I think honestly, the biggest repair is just replacing particularly the sliding doors on the one in front of Phil's. And I think if there was a volunteer or someone out there in the community who'd want to do some of this work for us, that would be great. I think we probably on our own could probably clean some of their graffiti off or do repainting, or we could have a community event to repaint. And it's also just a larger issue and question to the commissioners and any community members. If you've ever seen these billboards before, I'd seen only one of them. I knew of one. So, just if there's a better way we could highlight them or use them, or, how is most of the time I saw it tends to be community services or things going on like tutoring, yoga classes, other things that are being publicized. I don't know if they serve the same function they do when they were first put up. But if anything, we should at least fix the more precarious one so that those doors don't fall out. So that was something we wanted to bring to the full commission for discussion and any input, and we can sort of go from there.
Thank you so much. One thing I'll note, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe the board that is labeled as 17th in Calorama is actually Champlain in Calorama.
Sorry, I just think I was guessing, I think. So, okay, I can correct that.
Got it. That's cool. The intersection you're thinking of, I think, has 2 call boxes, which I have studied to try to get repainted, but there's a lot of things that need repairing and they sometimes get overlooked.
Yeah, so this one, like Marie Reed Community Center is just right behind it. So that's on that, it's that street and near the parking garage.
Perfect. I agree with those thoughts. Any commissioners, if you have comments or questions, raise your hand at this time. I personally think that these are nice. I don't know that they're the most used in terms of just dollar for dollar, we'll say, in terms of how many people would be getting informational purposes out of these. I'm not sure what that would be. Also, it would help to have some sort of dollar estimate of what the costs incurred would be for repairs. I'm personally in favor of some sort of volunteer events to see what we can get to just have people at least clean these up. I think that could be good for a few different reasons. Anyone else have thoughts, comments, questions on this? Anyone in the community that's attending have any questions or comments on this item? In that case, I want to move to postpone this indefinitely, just so we can get more information, and if and when the information comes to help inform a decision, we could bring this up again. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Any other last points of discussion before we vote on this? Basically, knowing costs and trying to kind of assess what options we have in place before spending our limited budget. In a more perfect world, we wouldn't have to think about that, but we do have community organizations, I think, that would be interested in our funds as well. So unfortunately, have to be careful with how we allocate things. Commissioner Falskini, go ahead.
This seems like a great opportunity for a citizens association to show that they would be invested in our community in more ways than just lobbying, which would potentially violate their charity status, and instead are actually invested in doing real contributive work to the community outside of just lobbying.
That's a good point. The implication is Calorama Citizens Association, but what's it called? The Reed Cook Neighborhood Association's actually got a good track record of being involved in stuff like this. So it could be helpful to be in touch with them because I've done some work with them on items before. So the double-edged sword that you just presented, I accept. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? All right, let's bring it to a vote. All those in support of postponing indefinitely the discussion on these boards and the repair, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? It looks like it passed unanimously, 6-0. A slate of unanimous votes tonight. Lots of good conversation, lots of good items tonight. I'll move to adjourn